Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Well, welcome back to the Corner of Truth and Courage. This is part 4 of what I call the Victory Challenge. We've been sharing this all week with our listeners, and if you've missed any of our broadcasts, you can go back online to fortressoffaith.com and re-listen to these programs. We always upload every morning our program and leave them there. By the way, I think you'll still be able to catch last year's broadcast for 2020. And so you've got a great deal of an archive to go through. So what is the Victory Challenge? Well, the Victory Challenge is basically to get victory over our life in areas of our life where we are failing. Maybe we're failing in a diet. Maybe we're failing in how we're managing our money, or maybe there's an addiction we've allowed in our life, or maybe we're not managing our time, our money, or our diet very well. Many of you are on a diet program. So I want to share with you some things I learned. 3 years ago, I lost 140 pounds in 7 months. It was the greatest thing I ever did. And I learned a whole lot along that journey. And a lot of it, the journey was mental. It wasn't so much the physical battle. There was that physical battle a little bit, but most of it, 80% of it, was a mental decision, mental battle that I was going through along in that journey. And so I want to share with you some things that I learned that I have been developing over these years. I kept the weight off for about 2 years. But then I started gaining it back this last year, and I've gained 60 pounds back, and oh boy, I feel it. You might use this, maybe you're in that same boat. You've got to lose some weight. Maybe you don't have to lose as much as I do, or maybe you're at that point in your life where you've never had to lose weight before, but now you do. You're one of the lucky ones. I've always had a weight problem, and it's been a bad testimony, and that's really what encouraged me to get my life right in that area. And I've allowed it to get bad again. And so I'm going to correct it now. And so I wanted to share this with you in January because a lot of people are on diets and they're looking at their life. And this is a chance for a new beginning, a new start. We don't want to bring the bad habits from 2020 into this new year with us. We're going to leave it in 2020 and we're going to cut clean and we're going to take a new start. And so the Victory Challenge is an acrostic. I've taken the word victory, and I'm giving you some points that will help you mentally, spiritually, in overcoming these areas of your life so that you can have victory. After all, God has called us to victory. And so V stands for vacating. We're going to vacate. We're going to leave. We're starting a journey. And we packed our bags. And we've departed from bondage of sin of Egypt, and we're heading to the promised land. There's going to be some difficulties along the way. We're not going to get there right away. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a process. But we know that there's hope. We know that there's something ahead that we're shooting for. And so in part 1, we talked about vacating, leaving. Part 2, we talked about invoking. We're going to invoke help. We're going to invoke help from God. God called us. We're spiritual creatures. And we have to deal with the flesh and the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and pride of life. And these are sins that easily beset us. And for some, it's food. For some, it's other things, whatever it may be. And so we're going to invoke help from God to overcome some of the passions and the appetites that we have in our life through the old man, through the old flesh, and become an overcomer. And we're going to also invoke help from a mentor. That was part 2. Part 3, we talked about how to take charge over our life. Instead of these things control us, we're going to start controlling them. There's a process in this, and we need God's help in that journey. God is the one who takes sinners and turns them into saints. He takes the crippled and the crushed and turns them into conquerors. He takes the oppressed and turns them into overcomers. He takes the victims and turns them into victors. And so we're going to overcome those things. That was part 3. Today I want to talk about the T and the O of victory. T is tracking. We're going to track. We're going to measure. If you don't track, you can't measure. And if you can't measure, you're not going to have success. If you can't measure your journey, whether you're succeeding or failing, then you're not going to likely succeed. Jim Rohn said this: what's simple to do is also simple not to do. And this idea of tracking, it's simple to do it. It's simple just to simply track your progress. If you're losing weight, you can write down, on this date, this was my weight. And I can take a chart. Or I could, have a jar of beans or marbles or jelly, whatever it is there, and take one, I want to lose 60 pounds, and I'm going to put 60 beans in this jar and 0 beans in this jar. And each day I lose a pound, I'm going to take that and I'm going to drop it in there. That's simple to do. It's visual. It's helpful. It's motivating. Sometimes it's discouraging because we've got to take beans from the jar that we were trying to fill, and we got to put them back in the jar that we want to empty. But tracking is important. And if you're not going to track, then you're going to have a hard time succeeding. Jim Rohn said this: what is simple to do is also simple not to do. The magic is not in the complexity of the task. The magic is in doing the simple things repeatedly and long enough to ignite the miracle of the compound effect. The idea here is this journey we're on, these things that I'm sharing with you, you say, well, that's not very deep, that's not very profound, that's not very complex. Well, I'm thankful it's not, because if it was, then only a smart person could figure it out. And I might be left behind in that. The things that I'm sharing with you and the things that will help you get success is not that it's complex, yet you got to do something that's very difficult to understand and complex and profound. No, these things are actually simple. The difficulty is doing them again and again and again and again and again. To do it repeatedly and often, long enough. And when you do, finally you look back and you say, wow, look at the journey that I have made. When I lost 140 pounds in 7 months, the first week, that was the hardest. It really was. The second week was much, much easier. And before I knew it, I was 7 months in at my goal. If you want to have success, you need to track. You need to journal your journey. Athletes track. If they want to succeed, if you want to be a good athlete, if you want to be successful, if you want to be the top of your game, you're going to keep stats. You're going to track how well you've done. I hit these many balls. I did this, whatever. I made these scores. Scientists, they track. They write down. They make detailed notes of their observations, and they track. And that's how they know if they're succeeding or if they're failing. If you're going to have a successful business, you're going to track how you're spending your money here and spending time on this and spending here that. You're going to track these things. Success comes when people track. Someone said, people who fail and people who succeed have one thing in common. They all hate doing the same things. The difference is that successful people do them anyway. Let me say that again because that's worth saying. People who fail and people who succeed have one thing in common. And the thing they have in common is that they all hate the same thing. The difference is that the successful people do them anyways. And tracking is not fun. It's just not, making notes, keeping a record, your successes and your failures and all that kind of stuff. That's not fun to do. But do them anyways. Journal your journey. Make a graph of how you're doing. If you're spending time on certain things, measure it. How much time am I sitting here in front of this TV? How much time am I on Facebook? How much time am I spending on this video game? Things will rob your time. Track it and start writing down. How long am I doing? If you want to manage your money better, track how you're spending your money. All right, let's move on to the O for optimism. Optimism. Victory. Vacate. I. Invoke power and help from God and friends. C. Take charge. T. To track. Start tracking your progress. And O. Be optimistic. Optimism is, seeing the glass half full, right? Pessimism is seeing the glass half empty. Voltaire said this: optimism is the madness of insisting that all is well when we're all miserable. I guess he wasn't too optimistic, I guess. But Robert Brott, who I don't know who he is, but he said this: the average pencil is 7 inches long with just half an inch eraser. In case you thought optimism was dead. Okay, I thought that was a good point. But basically is this: what am I talking about being optimistic? Optimism is an attitude of hope. We can always choose our attitude. When you're breaking bad habits and trying to change and alter your life, trust me, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have some challenges along the way. It's not going to be a walk amongst the flowers. And breaking bad habits is going to bring challenges. And you're going to sometimes be faced with depression, failures. You're going to have you're on a journey, and you might have diverted and gone back into areas that you said, I'm not going to go back there anymore. I'm leaving that. I've left Egypt. When they left Egypt, how many times did they say in the Bible, oh, I wish we had died in Egypt? They wanted to go back. They wanted to go back to bondage. They wanted to go back to the shackle because that was comfortable for them. It's comfortable just to let life live and not be disciplined. But there's no success there. God has more for you, and that you need to make those changes. And so you've started that journey. When we have difficulty, remember, I'm going to be optimistic about this. I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to let that kill my dreams. You're not going to let your failings be your failure. You know what, folks? You can get knocked down. But being knocked down is one thing. Getting back up makes you a champion. Turn the stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 says this: and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So, folks, this is what's so important in this part, and there's so much more I could talk to you about, and I don't have the time of changing our thinking and changing our process of how we look at these things, but I think it says it all in Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. So let's read it again. And let us not be weary in well-doing. We know it's well, we know it's right in the journey we've taken, in the victory challenge. So don't get weary, don't get depressed, don't become overwhelmed. Remember this: for in due season, one day we'll get there, in due season we shall reap if we faint not, if we don't quit. So keep on. If you put your hand to the plow, don't take it off. Don't turn back. Remember Lot's wife? She turned back. She looked back. And it was a disaster for her. And so keep on keeping on. And join us tomorrow as we finalize the Victory Challenge in tomorrow's broadcast. God bless you.